Birds beneath my window, dusty in their wings upon the lawn. I hear them in the morning light, and the last amen to a migratory song. They're never looking around for me, their eyes are on the sky, the ground below. I'd rather be the one who loves than to be loved and never even know. Hello, Blackbird, hello, starling, winter's over, be my darling. A long time coming, but now the snow is gone. A long time coming, but now the snow is gone. You were beautiful when I first saw your feathers and confectionery airs. The earth lit up and promised you the stars, but you really didn't care. I sang in exaltation, I pulled the stops, you always looked a little bored. I'm singing for the love of it, have mercy on the man who sings to be adored. Hello, Blackbird, hello, starling, winter's over, be my darling. Long time coming, but now the snow is gone. I'm underneath your window now, it's long after the birds have gone to roost. And I'm not sure if I'm singing for the love of it or for the love of you. But I've flown a long way, honey, oh, hear my confession that I'll go. I'd rather be the one who loves than to be loved and never even know. Hello, brown one, hello, blue one, last night's feathers exchanged for new ones. Hello, Blackbird, hello, starling, winter's over, be my darling. Long time coming, but now the snow is gone. Long time coming, but now the snow is gone.
Good morning, Spirit Garage. How is everyone?
Fantastic.
Good.
Hello, everyone. We've got friends with us, new and older friends. Hi. Welcome, friends. Welcome, you people at home. Thank you for joining us. My name is John Kearns. I'm the minister of music here at Spirit Garage, and we're going to worship God today several different ways, but we're glad that you are here with us. And please say hello in the comments, in the chat section. Greet your neighbor. Say a prayer for one another. And let's go around the room and see who's here. First, we have our friend Wade and our friend Jason. Oh, way over there. We're at the Squirrel House here broadcasting, and you can't see, I know, but Jason is way over there, and Wade's way out there, and we're responsibly distancing ourselves to make music together. Thanks to our friend Matthew, who's way over that way at the soundboard. We have Pastor Holly. We have Pastor Verlon with us today. We have Debbie and Marla. Thank you for joining us. It's awesome to have lots of people involved, so thank you. This is great. We're going to sing some songs, and our friend Debbie is going to post the link to the worship menu in the comments. So you can click on that link and you can follow along with worship if you'd like. Instead of having a hard copy, you can have a soft copy, a digital copy of worship, and you can follow along with the various pieces of worship that are happening. And yeah, we're just glad that you're here. Thank you very much to everyone for joining us, and let's sing a song. This is Wake Up Everybody. No more sleeping in bed. All right. Oh, wrong chord. There we are. This is the Hall & Oates chord. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wake up everybody, no more sleeping in bed. No more backwards thinking, time for thinking ahead. The world has changed so very much from what it used to be. There is so much hatred, war, and poverty. Wake up all the teachers, time to teach a new way. Maybe then they'll listen to what you have to say, 'cause they're the ones who's coming up, and the world is in their hands. When you teach the children, teach them the very best you can. The world won't get no better if we just let it be. Wake up all the doctors, make the old people well. They're the ones who suffer and catch all the hell. They don't have so very long before the judgment day. So won't you make them happy before they pass away? Wake up all the builders, time to build a new land. I know we can do it if we all lend a hand. The only thing we have to do is put it in our mind. Surely things will work out, they do it every time. The world won't get no better if we just let it be. Change it, yeah, just you and me. The world won't get no better if we just let it be. The world won't get no better. We gotta change it, yeah, just you and me. Just you and me. Just you and me. Just you and me.
Every week is a new week and another chance to say, here I am, use me. Every day is a new day and another chance to say, thank you for yesterday, thank you for tomorrow. Every hour is a new hour, another chance to say, again and again, make me new. We do not come to this place to stay the same. We come to this place to be changed. So let us worship God who created yesterday, will create tomorrow, and even now is creating something new. Today is our different lens service that we do about once a month, which means we don't have communion, and our message time will include a reframing of things, perhaps, in our lives and in the life of Jesus. Verlon Brown will be joining me in a little while to share a bit of his wisdom with us, and I'll tell you a little bit more about Verlon when we get to that time. But let's start with our centering time together. And a poem called Keep Digging by Reverend Sarah Ari. And before we do that, before we hear these words, let's take a few deeps together and breathe in the breath of God and breathe it back out into the world. Breathe in God's peace and breathe it back out into the world. Breathe in God's grace and breathe it back out into a world who needs all of those things: God's breath, God's peace, God's grace. Amen. I can feel change inside of me. It's a slow burn. Change usually starts out hot, defensive, and angry, a self-righteous blanket of, I am right, and here's why. I wrap it around my shoulders like a barricade. I fight the temptation to lean forward, to play the challenger, to argue with confidence. But in time, almost always the heat fades, the air leaves the balloon, the audacity of it all starts to wear off, and eventually what I am left with is myself and a big open sky. It's colder there, it's quieter. I can hear my thoughts. And in this big, wide openness, I am able to say out loud, maybe I wasn't right. Maybe I need to learn. Maybe it's time for change. Maybe that's okay. And if I'm quiet, and if I'm paying attention, I can usually hear God whisper inside of me, good work, child. Now keep digging. We've been gathered by God into this space to hear God's word spoken to us today. God who is still creating, still sustaining, and still liberating us in all kinds of ways every day. The peace of Christ be with you all, and share a sign of that peace with one another in the chat section or with the people who might be gathered in your home as we hear this next song.
And we're going to sing Your Calcutta. The lyrics are in your worship menu, and the link is in your comments section if you want to follow along. If you want to just sing on your own in your living room or in your kitchen, you can just sing these words of the chorus. Be the change you're called to be. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Turn the page, time to start anew. Gotta get off the bench. Lord, what can I do? What service can I offer when guided by you? How can we the change you're called to be? Be the change you're called to be. Down and out he's fallen, many passers-by gaze upon his trouble, yet no no one takes the time. One unlikely servant stopped across the line. How can we be the change you're called to be? The change you're called to be.
Jason.
Soiled and unworthy, time to lend your voice. Done broken down and dirty, help them to rejoice. Find your own Calcutta, it's time to make the choice. How can we be the change you're called to be? The change you're called to be. Find your own Calcutta, time to make the choice. Find your own Calcutta, it's time to make the choice. Find your own Calcutta.
Well, as I said, it is our Different Lens series this week. And we know during this time, we talk about how each person sees the world and even reads the Bible from a multiple set of lenses related to who they are and how they were raised and what kinds of things have happened to them in life and what kinds of things happen in general in life and what we've all learned along the way. We've been handed a way of reading the Bible and seeing the world down through the years as well, often without us even being aware of other people's realities and perspectives. And that's why we do this Different Lens series, to hear voices we may not always hear, to lift up perspectives that might teach us more than what our own has taught us, or to correct what's been taught. Now, often with the Different Lens series, at this point, I remind us that most of the voices about theology that we've heard down through the years are from white men, and their theologies and perspectives are valid. They just need to be understood as perspectives, making room for other perspectives. But today, I know Verlon is going to talk about white supremacy, and that is a perspective and an institution of white body supremacy. And it's one that we've all grown up with, no matter who you are and what color your skin is. But it's a particularly harmful perspective. So here I am not going to say it's a valid perspective. It just needs to be known as a perspective, because that perspective is dangerous and it literally kills people. Verlon is going to share with us some of that wisdom today, and I'm going to bring him in now. Verlon Brown lives out in Seattle, so he's a couple hours behind us and will be getting ready for his own worship service as soon as he's done talking to us. I met Verlon back in the 90s up at Holden Village when I used to be involved with the planning around some youth weekends that we called Let Justice Roll, and Verlon was one of our speakers. And then I just got to run into him in that world a lot. He likes to give me advice about dating. has done significant work around race in the ELCA and significant work in the world around homelessness. And he's also a really good friend of J.D. Nelson's. Is it from seminary days, Verlon? Or when did you meet?
No, it was from the University Lutheran Center there in Minnesota is where we met. We used to live in a group house together.
That's awesome. So they go way back and have been
way back.
That talk a lot. But in addition to that, Verlon, I also found out that you know another person from my tiny little congregation in South Minneapolis, Peter Wiemeyer. And Peter knew you from his days at the Lutheran Study House in Washington, D.C., where I think he also learned a significant amount from you about probably both homelessness and also, as I understand it, fried chicken sandwiches and other things that made him laugh, but that he didn't repeat. So, so there's that. You know, we sit at a significant time in history, Verlon, as our city here is in the midst of the trials for George Floyd's murder. And as the country tries to process the killing rampage in Atlanta, and as we have passed the 1-year anniversary of Breonna Taylor being shot in bed, and some of our church members have done some significant work studying race and privilege this year. So having set that platform, where do you want to start with today? And I'll maybe just let you take over from here and come back and join you when you're nearing.
Okay.
Sound good?
Yeah.
Great.
I'll start with a reading from the text. The righteous care about justice for the poor, but the wicked have no such concern. Proverbs 29:7. When I was a kid, I can remember I was watching some war movie on TV, and I can remember asking my mother if Black people and white people have ever had a war. And she says, no. And I remember saying, well, why do they hate us then? And she said, well, I just don't know why they hate us. And so over the years, I made it a point to pay attention to that sort of thing. I've been in a number of anti-racism workshops. And over the years, I've led quite a few anti-racism workshops. And you come to the conclusion that racism is just baked into the system. It's more than just how we feel about people of color. Of course, nobody thinks they're racist. And they say, you know, I have a grandson who's Black. I have a brother-in-law who's Black. I have, you know, different things like that. And it's that's kind of how it is. And people think that being racist has to do with emotional stuff, things about feelings, and but it's also about financial justice, economic justice, and that's what I'm going to talk a little about is economic justice. We get worked up about touchy-feely stuff, about how we feel, not recognizing that racism is baked into the system. It's systemic, which means it's everywhere. It's not just in how we feel or necessarily how we treat each other. So I'll go down the list of a few things that it would involve. Let's start with slavery. Slavery, of course, was 246 years of free labor. And you have to ask yourself, who did it benefit? It certainly didn't benefit the slaves. Mississippi Delta at that time was one of the wealthiest places in the world. And today, without cotton, It's the poorest place in the world, and it's known for poverty and blues. Then came the Black Codes, which was basically after slavery. When slavery was over, uh, they just let people go. They didn't talk to them about anything. They didn't offer them any other kind of resources. All they did was just let them go, and nothing was done. Nothing was in place. But what they did do is pick up slaves who weren't working. They picked them up again. These were called the Black Codes, and they picked them up again and made them work again for free because they said they were idle and didn't have anything to do. So the reoccurring theme here again is free labor. They picked them up and forced them to do free labor after slavery was over. Then came Reconstruction, which was kind of a bright spot, trying to make things better for African American people. And there were a few Black congressmen, and they talked about giving Black people 40 acres and a mule for their reparations for slavery. And the 15th Amendment, which allowed Black people to vote. But unfortunately, this period lasted from somewhere between 7 and 10 years. And then when President Andrew Johnson, who was a member of the KKK, put an end to it. And so the good thing for people of color at that time came to an abrupt end within 7 to 10 years. And as I mentioned, the KKK came along after that with their lynching and their terrorism. Meanwhile, what was going on in the rest of the world is that white Europeans were given 160 acres of free land west of the Mississippi that they could use and start a farm on their land. All they had to do was kill Indians, but they got free land due to that. And then over the years, Europeans got about 2 billion acres of land. So that's quite a head start for Europeans in terms of the land they got compared to the slaves who got nothing. Then after that, we move into sharecroppers. The thing about sharecropping is that you didn't own the land, and you were always in debt to your owners. And if you notice, these things continue. Every generation, there's a new way to get free labor out of Black folks. And we sort of had become the labor class. And so every now and then it would morph into something else. It started off as slavery, then it morphed into sharecropping, and it just morphed into different things, but it all equaled the same thing: free or very cheap labor. Then you have to ask yourself again, continue to ask yourself, who benefits by these different things? Who's making the money because of those different things? Then there came a practice called what they call sundown towns. And these were towns where Black people were not allowed to be in town after sundown. So it's hard to try to run a farm when you can't be in the city to buy goods and things you need for your farm after sundown. So that was another one. Then came Social Security. Social Security, which was a wonderful thing, started in 1935 by Roosevelt. And the thing about Social Security is that Social Security was wonderful for people, except it didn't include domestics or farm hands. And that's exactly what a lot of Black people were doing at that time. They were domestics, working in homes for wealthy white people, or farm hands. And so they didn't get Social Security. And they also, when you retired at 65, that's when you're supposed to get Social Security. But many Black people didn't work till 65. They were too old or too run down from doing physical labor, or or they died early, and so they didn't get Social Security. So where do you think that money went? Who do you think got that money? Once again, you need to ask yourself, who benefits? Then when housing did come along, there was the GI Bill that came along, which soldiers would get this GI Bill. They could go to the bank and get a loan for a cheap loan to get housing. But the problem with that is that banks would not give Black people any loans. And what happens to that? That's also cuts into wealth, and you don't get that kind of wealth for you and your family. No bank loans, no housing, no inheritance that you can pass down to your family if you want to, or if you wanted to sell it. You buy a home for $12,000 in the 50s, and you can sell it for $30,000-$40,000 in the 70s, and that way you make you make money off your investment. Well, if you didn't get that investment in the first place, you were out of luck. So once again, white people move ahead of Black people, and the same amount of the same difference between Blacks and whites in income, that same gap that we have today was the exact same gap that we had in 1968. So things haven't changed that much in terms of wealth building for Black people. Then there was this thing called redlining. When you did buy a house, you moved to area of town that wasn't so great. You couldn't get to pick your area of town. You had to move in ghettos. That's where they would have you buy your house, and and that's where you'd go. That's where you'd go, and then of course, what was the resale value on that? If you buy a home in a rundown home in a part of town that's rundown as well, what do you think the resale value of that would be? And then we move into Black farmers. Black farmers only have about 1% of farmland, of all the farmland in America. Black farmers only have 1% of that. A good thing about that is that in Biden's new bill, Black farmers, he gave Black farmers $5 million. So that's a good thing. So farmers can run their farms the way they like to, with real money now and getting real loans from the bank. And then, of course, there's the prison industrial complex. The thing about the prison industrial complex, like 1 out of 4 African American men will end up doing some time in jail or in prison. And the thing about that is, once you get a felony count, there are certain things you can't get in most states. One is any kind of money, like SSI, supplemental security income for people who are disabled or in some way incapacitated. That's a monthly check that people get. They're not eligible to that because they were felons and spent time in prison. The same way with low-income housing. You can't get low-income housing after you've been a felon. So you notice with all these different things, white men and so black men were locked out from the ages of, say, during the prime working years, from 15 to 55 or so. And so Black people were locked out of that, which also meant that white men never really had to compete with Black men, because most Black men were locked down because of money situations. They never had opportunities, or because of being in jail. And if whites were serious about anti-racism, they need to break their addiction to white supremacy and white privilege. So here's a list of things that they could do. Number one, you can follow the money. See where the money goes. Pay attention to where the money goes. If Blacks don't get the money for different things, see where it's going, like Social Security or housing, or where does that money go if Black people aren't getting it? Educate yourselves. Educate yourselves to what's going on in terms of the financial issues between Blacks and whites. Name white privilege when you see it. Challenge white supremacy when you encounter it. Quit teaching your children those lies about our history and those fake white heroes. I'm reading this book, I've read this book by Isabel Jefferson called Caste. And she mentions in the book about how in Germany, they've erased all mention or all recognition of Hitler, which of course, in this country, we still have statues of people who were in the Confederate Army and who lost the war against the North, but still we have statues of them all over the place. Some of them have come down, but a lot of them are still up. And in Germany, in the part where Hitler's bunker was, there's no statue, there's no mention of Hitler. In fact, she said it was a parking lot. And I thought, well, if that was in America, we would have a lot of parking lots. But so that was kind of their way of dealing with it. Just no mention, no recognition of Hitler whatsoever. And so people aren't teaching their kids about Hitler and what a great guy Hitler was. I remember a book. I can't remember the title of it now, but it was by Howard Zinn, and it was a book about the real history of America, and it's an interesting book, and he left out a lot of the lies that we grew up learning about. So quit pretending that white supremacy and white privilege doesn't exist, because it does exist. Support politicians who are working for reparations. Don't tolerate racist speech or racist behavior. Speak up. Be a witness to what's going on. A good example of that is George Floyd, the girl who filmed the whole thing. She videotaped the whole thing with the cop with his knee on George's neck. And she was a witness to that. She could have not shown that to anybody or not even bothered to video it. But she did, and she showed it to the right people, and it got out. And that's being a witness, and that's what we could do. We could be a witness. Martin Luther King, about 3 months before he was assassinated, said that he felt that he had led Black people to a burning house, because his movement was all about social issues, and he felt he had led Black people to a burning house because it should have been much more about economic justice. That's what Malcolm X was all about, economic justice. And Martin Luther King felt toward the end of his life that he had led us down the wrong path, that we needed to pay attention to economic justice. So be like Jesus, be like in Martin Luther King, and work for economic justice. And in the process, challenge our church. Make our church tent bigger, stretch the boundaries of our church by focusing on and paying attention to economic justice. And nobody will ask you about why they hate us. Nobody will ask you that question again, why they hate us, if you work on economic justice and what's that about in our society. Thank you. That's it. I want to thank you all. I really enjoy coming here. I feel like a young hipster. So.
You are a young hipster. That was an amazingly fast little correction of a bunch of history. And coming up in our chat section, there's a small group of people who earlier this year listened to a podcast called Seen on Radio. And there's 2 seasons that deal with a bunch of the stuff that you're talking about. One is called The Land That Has Never Been Yet, and the other one's on Seeing White. And so for those of you who did not get a chance to listen to those yet and want more details about what Verlon is talking about, you'll get a really good history lessons in that. So I recommend that. Also coming up in our chat section, Verlon, and you touched on it a little bit. Someone's wondering if prisons are the new form of that slavery. The
Oh,
loop
of course.
that people have found. And it seems like there's a podcast somewhere on that too, where there's
Well,
prison.
there's the book. There's the book, The New Jim Crow. That's been out for years, but basically, that's what it's saying. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, those of you in our anti-racism challenge who are doing those, remind me of that book when we talk again about what to do next, because that might be a good thing to look at. I did not read that. And then there's been a project here called Mapping Our Prejudice that is shows how redlining and played out in Minneapolis. So I know that Kearns has done some work. Like he posted on Facebook the other day how you can look at the map of the city and see if your house, if you own a house, fits in, if it has a racial covenant attached to its property deed. And then I know there's somebody, let's see, David Shearer, Agape, has produced signs that you can put in your yard that at least talk about, what's the word? It's hard to get rid of that line from the deed in your property, but dissenting against that, I guess, is to make people aware that that's also happened in Minneapolis. Because you probably know that people in Minnesota sometimes like to think that their part in white supremacy is smaller because we didn't have slaves up here, but we're all learning a lot about how that just plays out differently depending on where you are. So thank you for all of that wisdom today. I wonder about sports sometimes too, professional sports, and how that plays out in terms of economics. Like the coaches are all white, and the players, there's a lot of players that are black, and then they end up, working until their bodies don't allow them to work anymore, and then their finances are gone. So I don't know. It's an interesting thing I've been thinking about too.
Yeah, the slavery motif goes through all of society, really. I mean, it's just it permeates much of society.
Yeah. I was also, I think yesterday I saw a job description, maybe on Facebook or somewhere, that mentioned that one of the criteria for the job was no trouble with the law. And I thought to myself, it's basically saying, I mean, I don't know if there are black people who haven't had trouble with the law. If 1 in 4 men goes to prison, that's one thing, but just like trouble with the law also is about people who get pulled over vastly more than I do, for instance. So it's another way of saying we only want white people to apply. I think, I mean, they probably don't know that that's what they're saying, but it's a thing I thought about when I saw that. So follow the money. Good wisdom for today. I have a couple of fun questions for you to close our time together. You mentioned a couple books. I think it might be The People's History or something like that. Is the Howard
Yeah,
Zinn?
that's it. The People's History, yeah.
Are there any? Yeah, and you also mentioned Caste. I've also read that, talked about it a little bit. That's a really good one. Are there any other books, fiction or nonfiction, that have captured your attention lately, or that you wish would capture white people's attention?
Well, the last two I've read was Caste and Lenny Duncan's book, Dear Church.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the last two that I've read.
Good.
That I've liked.
Good. What song always makes you dance?
Actually, there's no particular song. I love African drumming.
Mm-hmm.
And, that always makes me move to listen to African drumming. And, you hear it from time to time, or you can also YouTube it, but I just like it. I love it. I enjoy it.
Cool. Do you listen to podcasts? Do you have a favorite to recommend?
No, I'm not up on podcasts.
All right.
I
If
Go ahead.
if heaven exists and God has a voice, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive?
Welcome. We've been expecting you. Over there on the table is a bowl of chips. Eat all you want, and you won't gain a pound.
That's lovely. And can you close us out with a poem or a quote that speaks to you? That might be a hard one to just come up with.
No, I can't right at the moment. I know this. As soon as we hang up, something will come to mind. But right now, there's nothing.
Of course. Okay. I want to thank you for the time that you have spent with us today and for the ways that you've shared your wisdom. Also, always good to see you. I'm sorry it doesn't happen as often anymore.
Oh,
And
well.
it'll come around though. I'll be back out there.
Do you still need my advice?
Yeah, I do.
All right. I got plenty of that.
Right on. All right. Have a good day at church and enjoy your cloudy weather there.
All right. Thank you all very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, take care, Verlon.
All right. Bye.
Okay. I am going to close us with a prayer. I'm sorry I didn't quite get to all of your questions that were in the chat section. But since we're going to keep on having this conversation, let's keep on thinking about how to get those things onto the table so we can talk about generational trauma and some of these other things that have come up. Please pray with me. Gracious God, thank you for the gift of different lenses, and help us to always keep in mind that we hold only one angle of the truth. Help us to shift to see the world through additional perspectives, open to all that you have done and are doing. We continue to pray for safety for all the workers on various front lines in the United States and in the world. We pray that we would all stay vigilant and keep things easier for people who have to be on those various front lines. We also pray for various people in our community with heartaches and heartbreaks and hard times and health issues. We ask for healing for our minds and healing for our bodies and healing for our souls and patience in that healing. We ask for healing in our communities too, in Minneapolis, in Atlanta, in Dallas, and for the mind and the body and the soul of our community, and for our country, and for our world. And we lift up those prayers that are named in our chat section now too, for all the things, all the people that people are praying for within our community, all the lives that are touched. We pray that we might listen and learn from leaders like Verlon and learn to heal the sins of racism, follow the money, disrupt the patterns of power and racial abuses. And we know, God, that you are God, and that a time will come when all will be well. Until then, we know that it is your work, or our work, to follow you, and that means doing justice and loving kindness and walking humbly with you, so that we might all be free and united in all of our diversity as one in you who creates and liberates and inspires us all. Amen. As we end this time together, may your mouth speak of God's goodness. May your arms hold those in need. May your feet walk towards justice. May your heart trust its worth. May your soul dance in God's grace, and may this be your rhythm again and again and again until God's promised day. In the name of God, who is the lover, the beloved, and love itself, go with courage, go with heart, and go in peace. Amen. And now it is announcement time, so we'll bring Debbie in. Hello, Debbie.
Hey, it's announcement time. Yay! If you didn't know, I do that especially for Kylie because she loves it. So, yay! Glad to see you all. Hey, I want to give a special shout out to all of our friends on YouTube. If you didn't realize it, we are also live on YouTube as well as Facebook. So check it out. And you can always watch the rewatch. And Kearns has been posting some really awesome videos. So might want to go over to YouTube and check those out too. Okay, let's start out with telling you a little bit how you can help out Spirit Garage. I just put it in the chat. I'm going to add a banner too. Oh, Marla beat me to it and now we're hiding on it. So there's two ways. Okay, you can text BLCTCSG to S3256 on your mobile device or go to spiritgarage.org/donate. So we appreciate that. Hey, few things to let you know about how we can stay connected right after church. Right after this, we are going to have a coffee break and we do it via Zoom. So I'm going to add in the Zoom link into the chat right now. So you can just grab that link and just stop watching service at the end here. Wait till I'm done and then go over to Zoom so we can say hi there. That's a great way to just catch up with everybody. Always love that. And it was great seeing everybody on the annual meeting last week. So the kids are still reading Narnia on Tuesdays at 7 o'clock. They're reading Prince Caspian now. Okay, our book group is meeting this Tuesday. It's the 23rd at 7:30 p.m. and we're reading Jesus and the Disinherited by Howard Thurman. It's not a very long book. So seriously, you could pick it up today and finish it and talk with us on Tuesday. Hope you will join us. Glad to see everybody. Holy Week is coming up. Okay, so Palm Sunday is March 28th. We're here normal time, 10:30. And then April 1st, we're going to have a Living Last Supper for Maundy Thursday at 7 o'clock. And then on April 2nd, Good Friday, we'll be doing a creative service with the Stations of the Cross and some different things that tie into our contemporary community. On Saturday, check this out, fun in-person event, the Easter egg hunt for kids. It'll be at Lake Nokomis Community Center Playground. And, just check out the website or the Facebook just to get all that information. And then, of course, Easter Sunday, we are here live, YouTube, Facebook Live, online at 10:30 a.m. Please join us. We'd love to see you. One last thing, we mentioned the Anti-Racism Challenge has been listening to podcasts and things throughout the year. Their current challenge is to watch the PBS special, The Black Church. And then they're going to gather on April 21st to discuss what they've seen and heard. That's all I got for you.
Okay. Thanks, Debbie. Thanks, Verlon. Thanks, Marla. Thanks to Matthew. Matthew already had to take off, but it's really nice to have a sound guy, so thank you. Folks, we're going to sing some Tom Petty. You may know this one. This is Learn to Fly. Learning to Fly. Thank you, Jason.
I started out down a dirty road. Yeah, I started out all alone, and the sun went down as I crossed that hill, and the town lit up. Oh, and the world got still. The world got still, 'cause I'm learning to fly. Return, and the rocks might melt, and the Some say life, it'll beat you down. It'll break your little heart. Oh, it'll steal your crown. So I started out, for God knows where. I guess I'll know when I get there. When I get there, 'cause I'm learning to fly around the clouds. And what goes up must come down, must come down. 'Cause I'm learning to fly. Oh, but I ain't got wings. And coming down is the hardest thing. Yeah, 'cause I'm learning to fly around the clouds. And what goes up, you see it must come down, must come down. Now I'm learning to fly. Yeah, now I'm learning to fly. Oh yeah, I'm learning to fly. Right now I'm learning to fly.
Amen. Go in peace.
Well done.